Hey girl, hey, I just wanted to give y'all a quick disclaimer before this story time. If y'all hear any yelling or screaming in the background, I do not have any kids. I live by the pool and you can hear it now actually in this video. Yeah, y'all, I live by the pool and the kids outside, school is out. So if y'all hear that in the background, I'm sorry, please try to ignore it, but the kids outside, school is out. Don't wait on it tonight, I wanna get nasty. The video, your girl is back again with another story time. If you're to my channel, hey girl, hey, and if you're a returning subscriber, I don't even gotta say nothing because you know what's up, I know what's up, we know what's up, and that's on what? That's on period. And Mary had a little lamb. As y'all can see by the title of the video, today I'm telling y'all the story on how I fell in love with my father's mistress. And I know y'all thinking like, Asia, what? Like, huh? And y'all, I was thinking the exact same thing. This is another subscriber story time. Hear me out. So I did a subscriber story time, I think like a week or two ago, and y'all had a lot of mixed opinions on it. Like half of y'all was just like, y'all loved it, y'all want me to keep doing it. And the other half of y'all was just like, no, the subscriber story times sound too fake and you don't really like them and y'all just didn't like it. And I'm listening and I hear y'all, and I really wasn't gonna do any more subscriber story times just because it was about 30% of y'all really not feeling it. But y'all, the girl emailed me this story time like 3 or 4 days ago, and when I say this is a juicy story time, like I was literally on the end of my seat, like my toes was curled up by the end of this email. Like she sent me this really long, y'all, she basically sent me a book. Like she sent me this really long email and it's nothing but tea. So I'm gonna drop this subscriber story time for y'all. Y'all can let me know how y'all feel about it, but I'm sorry, I honestly could not pass this one up. And I am gonna be doing this one in first person just simply because I think it's boring and it doesn't seem entertaining reading it. Like I can say she said, he said, they said, I can, I could do it like that, but I don't know. I really don't like reading it like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this story time in first person, and y'all can let me know how y'all feel about it at the end. So y'all already know, in order for any of my story times to make sense, I have to give y'all a little backstory. So this happened before I was born. My mother was dating this guy, and we're gonna call this guy Daddy because he should have been my daddy. So my mother was 16 at the time, and this guy was 17. She was a junior at high school, and when I say my mother loved everything about this guy, y'all, she loved everything about him. She thought that this was gonna be her husband. She thought that she was gonna have kids with this man. Like she didn't see this man, like she didn't see her life without this man. Like this man was in her future. She used to fantasize about this man, and he was in her future. Like she didn't see life without him. So they were dating for about a year at this point. I is about to get ready and graduate high school. Daddy. But around this time, he was having all these issues at home with his mother. He said that his mother had like favoritism. She didn't really like him. She would always tell my mother that she didn't like him, and she just was really hard on him. His mother was saying that he was being very defiant, and once he graduated high school, like he was out. She was sending him to Boston to go live with his father. And of course my mother would listen to him beg, and she would just be like, it's okay, like once I graduate, like me and you were gonna be together. But fast forward to that summer, his mother was serious. Daddy's mother sent him to Boston to go live with his father. And before he left, he came to my mother and told my mother, once he turns 18, he's leaving Boston. He's coming back for her. He's going to wait for her to graduate high school, and they're going to be together. And of course, this was my mother's first. She was 17, young and gullible. So she believed him, y'all. So fast forward, he ends up leaving to go to Boston. My mother and daddy, they're still in communication. They're talking all the time. And shortly after he left, my mother ends up meeting another guy. We're going to call this guy that nigga, aka that ninja. So anytime y'all hear me say ninja, I'm really saying, but I'm on YouTube and I'm trying to like not get demonetized. So we're going to just name this other guy that ninja. And that ninja is my father. So my mother meets that ninja that summer, although she's still in communication with daddy. But around this time, she wasn't really thinking too much into it. She was just thinking that ninja was just gonna be somebody that was just gonna be there to make the time pass. She didn't think it was anything serious. Like I said, she was still in communication with daddy. So you know the summer is going by. My mother is having a hot girl summer. She went during her summer. She's dating that ninja, and she's also still in communication with daddy. Fast forward about 5 months later, my mom is a senior now in high school, and she gets pregnant, y'all. She is pregnant with me. Daddy turns 18, but he was still in communication with my mother, but they weren't talking like they used to talk. Like my mother had kind of moved on, but daddy was like the love of her life. Like he always had that spot in her heart. So daddy comes back to visit his mother. He doesn't tell anybody he's coming back. He doesn't tell his mother. He doesn't tell my mother. He just surprises his mother, and you know, he see his fam, he see his brothers and his sisters. And then the first thing he do is go to my mother's house. And at this time, my grandmother answers the door, and she sees daddy. And of course she knows who daddy was because my mother used to date him about a year ago. So she lets daddy in, and she doesn't say anything about my mother being pregnant. By this time, my mother is about 4 months pregnant, and she's big, y'all. She's showing. So he's sitting in the living room, and my mother said at this time she was getting ready to go to bed. Like it was around 7 o'clock, and she had a nightgown on, and she comes out, and the first thing she sees is daddy. And daddy sees her, and he shook. Like he couldn't believe my mother was pregnant. And the first thing my mother do is start bawling. Like she starts crying because she knew that she fucked up. Like she knew that the chance of her and daddy being together, like it was done. They weren't getting back together, and my mother knew that. So her and daddy, they're talking, and he's just like, wow, like really, like you really let another nigga in. And my mother was just like, yeah, like that summer things happened, and I'm pregnant or whatever. And daddy couldn't do anything about it because he was in Boston. He did find a job there. He did make friends there. And he didn't know when he was coming back to Florida. He had already turned 18, but at this point, he didn't know, y'all. He did not know when he was coming back. It was raps. Like my mother and daddy, they saw each other after that, but my mother already knew her chances to be with daddy was slim. She was 4 months pregnant with another ninja baby, and then, you know, daddy he wasn't really gonna be with her. So they seen each other a few months after that, but it wasn't the same. Fast forward to 1998, I was born, and by this time, that ninja and my mother, they were already married. They had already bought a house together, and they were official, y'all. They were together, and I was spoiled. I was the only child. Any and everything I wanted, I got it. FUBU. What else we used to wear? Baby fat. Anything y'all can think of, anything name brand y'all can think of, it was on my body. Like your girl had it. I didn't want for anything. And I knew I was blessed at this time. I had a lot of peers, and they would always like want things, but I don't know, y'all. I kind of wanted what they wanted. Like I wanted siblings, I wanted a brother, I wanted friends, and my parents would always try to fill that void by putting me in like soccer and sports, and I did cheerleading most of my life. But at the same time, I don't know, I just always longed for a sibling, although I knew that I was blessed to be the only child, because like I said, I didn't want for anything. My parents, they made sure I was straight, and life seemed perfect. Like I used to think my mother and my father, they were perfect. At this time, I didn't know anything about daddy. I didn't know that my mother thought that she was supposed to be with another guy. Like I didn't know about any of this. At this time, I'm 15. Fast forward, I'm 15 now, and you know, I'm getting older, and I'm starting to see things through a different lens. And I remember my mother was going to nursing school, and before, me and my mother relationship was like this. Like we would always be together. She would always make time for me. She would take me to get my nails done, my hair done. Like we would just have mother and daughter day. But once I turned 15, she started nursing school, and once she started nursing school, things just changed. Like she never really had time for me. She used to go to school from like sun up to sundown, and when she wasn't in school, y'all, she was in the library studying. It was just different. And my father used to be the one to wake up really early and then come home really late because he was working. But once my mother started nursing school, the roles kind of reversed. I remember shortly after my 15th birthday, she came to me and she was just like, hey, we're gonna have a nanny. You're gonna have a nanny to watch you, and after school you're gonna be doing like extracurriculum stuff, and then your father's gonna come pick you up, and then I'll see you in the morning. Like this is my last year of nursing school, and it's getting tough. It's gonna be tough or whatever. She explained that to me, and I was just like, okay, mommy, like I understand. And she expressed to me that she was doing this so I could have a better life, so I can have a better future. And at the time, I didn't really understand that. I started to resent my mother just because I thought she was abandoning me and she wasn't prioritizing her time. Now that I'm older, I do understand that my mother was doing what was best for me. But at that time, y'all, I really didn't understand it. So my mother told me the nanny was gonna be this lady. We're gonna go ahead and give her a name. We're gonna call the nanny the help. But she wasn't really a nanny because she used to tutor me in like 6th grade. So I already knew who the nanny was, AKA the help. So the help would come over 5 days a week, and on Saturdays and Sundays, that's the time me and my mother and my family would be together. Around this time, everything was good, and I also want to mention the nanny had a daughter that went to school with me. I'm 15 at this time, so I'm in 10th grade. So her daughter name was Kiki. We're gonna call her the daughter Kiki. So me and Kiki was cool, and we kind of became closer when her mom started working for my family. And me and Kiki, we 15, we would just be doing ratchet stuff, little ghetto hood stuff in my room, talking to boys, partying, listening to music, doing hair. We would just be vibing. My mother would be at work or she would be at school, and then my father would be there sometimes. And then probably like a month or so after that, my mother came home one day and she was just like, Asia, we no longer need the nanny. You're just gonna do after school. Like, you're gonna stay after school a little longer, and then on the days where you didn't have to go to school, me or your father would come pick you up. So I said, okay, like I didn't really think anything of it. That following week, my father came to pick me up from school, and the nanny was at the house, and I was just like, why is the nanny here? Like, why is she here? My mother told me last week that we were no longer gonna need the nanny. Like, we don't need the help anymore, but she was here. But at this time, I was just happy to have company because, like I said, I always longed for like a sister, and most of the times the nanny would come, my father would bring the daughter Kiki. So me and Kiki would be doing stuff, and the nanny would be doing stuff with my father from time to time. Half of the times he would be there, and the other half of the times my father, he would be at work. Like, we didn't really need the nanny. So fast forward probably like 3 months after that, I remember one day Kiki wasn't there. I think Kiki was doing something after school, and I saw my daddy and the help having intercourse. They were having. When I seen this, I was confused as hell, and my daddy didn't know that I seen this, but I just kind of like, I don't know, like ever since that day, I kind of just looked at my father different after I experienced that. So fast forward, she was still my nanny. My mother didn't know that she was my nanny. My mother thought that I was doing like after school activities, and she thought my dad would come pick me up, or she thought that I would just take the bus home some days that I didn't have like practice or anything. But really, I was taking the bus home, and the nanny was still watching me for the remaining of the night. So she didn't know. My daddy never came to me and said like, hey, you're not allowed to mention that the nanny is still here. But it was kind of like the unknown. Like, he didn't really have to say it. He was just like, hey, you're still gonna have a nanny. And he didn't say like not to tell my mother about it, but I just, I was like 15, 16 at this point, so I just knew not to tell my mother about it. So eventually I would see my dad getting closer and closer with the nanny. Like, he started taking me on dates with the nanny. Like, we would go get ice cream, we would go to the movies. We would be doing all of this while my mother was studying late night at the library, or the nights that she was home, like, we would do family stuff. But for majority of the time, for like that entire year, I just remember my mother not really being there, and I was just always with my daddy and the nanny. And it kind of got to the point where my daddy was moving sloppy. Like, I started to feel bad for my father because he started letting the nanny cook dinner at the house. The nanny started washing her clothes there. She would spend the nights there sometimes. She just started to move really messy. And at this point, my daddy had still yet to come to me. He didn't tell me like, hey, you can't say anything. Like, this is a secret. We're not supposed to be doing this. I was just of age to know that I couldn't say anything. I wanted to protect him and protect my mother, and in a way I wanted to protect the nanny because I was building a relationship with her. I remember when I turned 16, I had a birthday party, and the nanny wasn't at this birthday party, but I just remember she signed my card. I had a card with all my friends and family's name on it, and at the bottom it was like the help. And I don't know, like something about seeing that just was just like, wow, like you moving a little reckless, you getting a little reckless out here in these streets. But nonetheless, I was starting to like the nanny, and I knew it wasn't my place to say anything. I really wanted to tell my mother, but I just didn't feel comfortable telling my mother. And like I said, I was kind of used to having company. Like anytime the nanny, aka the help, would be there, Kiki would be there, and Kiki was like, she was like a friend to me. So fast forward, I'm 17 now, and my mother came to me and she's just like, Asia, I really wanted to be an example for you, and I really wanted to show you what a wife was, and I wanted to raise you in a two-parent household, but I can't do this anymore. Me and your father were getting a divorce. And I just remember sitting there that day, and I was just like really hurt. Like when I say I was hurt, y'all, I was just really, really hurt. And I started to resent my mother because my life really changed during that time. My father had moved out. I no longer really seen Kiki like that. We would see each other at school here and there, but I don't know, like everything just kind of changed. Once my father moved out, my father didn't really go into details about what had happened. I already knew that it was because of his infidelity. And the day that my mother told me that she was getting a divorce, I wanted to come clean. I wanted to tell her that I knew why she was getting divorced. I wanted to tell her that the nanny was still coming over, and I knew everything. I really wanted to tell her, but I don't know, y'all, I was just hurt. Like I didn't feel like it was, I don't know, I just didn't feel, I didn't feel like I had the right words, or I didn't have the strength to tell her. And I had fell in love with my dad's mistress at this point, and I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't help the relationship that we built, because they were cheating on, my dad was cheating on my mom for about 2 years at this time. So fast forward, I didn't see my dad for like a month after she told me they split. And then finally my dad got his visitation rights, and he would come pick me up. And I remember one day he picked me up, and the maid was in the car, and not the maid, y'all, the help was in the car. And I was happy to see her, but at the same time I was just thinking like, wow, you really got some balls to pull up to my mom's house with the help in the car. Like she's not the reason why y'all not together. The help was happy to see me. We spent that day together, and then eventually I started spending every other summer with my dad. So this went on all the way until I was about 18. And then I remember one day I found out that my father and the help lived together, and I didn't know that they moved in together. I thought that my father had just got his own place. I would come to his place too, but later I found out that he was living with Kiki and her mom, and I thought Kiki would have told me. So I confronted Kiki and was just like, hey, why didn't you tell me like a year ago that my father was living with you and your mom? And then she was just like, she didn't feel like it was her place. She didn't think she basically just told me she didn't think it was her place, and if I would have asked, she would have told me, but she didn't feel comfortable. Like she thought it wasn't her place to tell me. So I thought that was fake as fuck. So I ended up cutting Kiki out, and then yeah, that was the story. Like fast forward, now I'm 24, and my dad is now married to the maid, aka his mistress. And when I was younger, I really didn't understand, I didn't really understand any of this until now. Like now that I'm older, I see that the mistress is like a horrible person. Like she was the nanny, aka a family friend, and she was in our house spending my mom's money. She was in my mom's bed. She was, you know, she was doing all the wifey duties to my father, and she was faking the funk. And now she's married to my father, and my mother knows that she's married to my father. And I just feel so bad because growing up, like I didn't look at it that way. I used to resent my mother because I'm thinking like, why aren't you here and the nanny's here? And now I'm 24 years old now, and I don't know, I just look at the nanny differently. I look at her like completely different. Like she's really disloyal. Like she's fake. She's a snake. And yeah, y'all, that's the story time on how I fell in love with my dad's nanny. I kind of fell in love with her when I was like 15 or 16. Now I'm 24, so I can clearly see I'm not young or naive anymore. So I know that she was a fake, but at that time I was literally in love with her. Like she was like a stepmother to me, and now she actually is my stepmother, but I can't look at her the same. And yeah, y'all, that's pretty much the end of this story time. Again, I do want to make it clear, this is not my story. This is a story time a subscriber sent to me, but I just told the story in first place. Oh, y'all, that was a lot. So again, this is not my story time. This was a subscriber story time that they sent to me. And girl, I hope I covered everything, because when I say the email was just all the email is basically a book. It was a lot to read, but it was a juicy story time, so I wanted to tell them on my channel. At the end of the story time, she did say that what did she say? She did say that she'll probably never trust a man again because her father couldn't even show me what love was without pain. I also look at him so different, and honestly, I don't believe in marriage because of this situation. And she said that she never even told her mom, and this is like one of her biggest family secrets. And y'all, this is a lot. Like, if this story really happened the way she told it in this email, it's kind of sad. And I concur. I agree with you. Like, your father was supposed to be that one man to show you how a man was supposed to treat somebody, and he couldn't even do that. Like, this was supposed to be the person that was supposed to set the tone for you, to show you how a man was supposed to treat you in the future. And your father cheated, and he put you in a sticky situation. Like you said, you was, I think she said she was, you said 15. I don't know how long he had the mistress, but I think she said she was 15 once he started dating the nanny. And like, you put her in an uncomfortable situation. I feel like a child should never have to experience that. Like, that's honestly gross. And then the nanny, she nasty. Like, why would you be in this woman's house cooking, cleaning, like washing clothes, doing all of this deceitful stuff? Like, she's gonna have bad karma. That's all I gotta say. People that do nasty things, they're gonna have bad karma. I know a lot of people don't believe in karma, but I believe in karma. Whatever energy you put out, that energy is gonna come back to you tenfold. And at this point, if your mother is happy and she's moved on from the situation, if I was you, I wouldn't feel bad. I wouldn't even tell her at this point if she's happy and she's moved on. They already got a divorce, I'm assuming. So like, why even tell her at this point? If I was in your situation, I probably definitely would take that to the grave, because that's a lot to digest. And like you said, you was young, and I don't think you should feel bad for feeling like resentment towards your mother, just simply because you was young. Like, when you're young, you don't really see things clearly. I wouldn't feel bad about it. I hope you and your mother now have a good relationship. If y'all want a part 2 on this story, or if she have like more back info to give, I'm gonna let her email it to me. If you watch this video, hey girl, hey, let me know how I did. And yeah, I'll see y'all in my next story time. Peace.